Has anyone ever taken a shower that makes you just think
Mm.
differently about your life choices?
I think that's
I
every
mean, you need
shower.
to change your shampoo if that's.
That was today. I was like, where I felt
What
like we're
was
gonna
it?
be okay. I took a shower and I was like, everything's gonna be okay. Alana, is that not you? You don't. Mike, I feel like that was him today. Just like he
Mike
was like
clearly did not shower today.
you know, again, housebroken in showers. We're
Yeah.
working up
Do you
to
remember
that.
your last shower, Austin? Do you remember what that was like?
It has changed since quarantine. Like COVID definitely has
I'm
like
gonna...
they become like a little bit more of a damn it. Everyone could do their
What I
hoodies
love
and
is that
things.
this hides
Sort of
my
hoodies.
my headphones pretty effectively.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it creates the magical illusion.
Fuck
of, like,
y'all.
Yeah.
I like
good.
that.
You
Good.
literally are wearing a hat with you're wearing a cap. You could just turn that cap around and no, okay.
It doesn't
cool.
count.
Oh,
It's not as cool as us.
Literally put
Do you
a
have
hat
a
on
beret?
Yeah, I was gonna
on
say
hands,
for all of
that's
our hat on a
amazing.
hat discussion.
Yeah, he doesn't have a hoodie, but he has a beret nearby.
He has a stunt beret. That's amazing.
No.
I love it.
What would you call this thing? This is a
beret.
This is a
Is
this
that not
is
a
a
beret? Oh, it's a
that's a
cap. In it.
beanie.
It's like a flat cap or beanie. Oh, it's
it's a beanie or a
Oh,
Yeah.
toque if you're in Canada, right? Who calls them
I
toques?
thought
I
a
don't know,
toque
but
was a
it has
type of
always
hobbit.
offended me that Americans just call them hats. If I'm wearing a beanie
No.
and it's nice, an American will be like, nice hat, and I'll be like, hat.
No, that's not a hat. That
They
person
do it.
More of a head sock.
that
I mean,
person
in-
got dropped as a child.
In fairness, Jews have been told that for hundreds of years about their
good
about
point.
their little
no,
caps.
actually, this
So
is just
hats.
the reminder of the divine presence. That's not a hat. Thank you.
The
though.
Dodgers.
This is
Yeah.
a Dodgers yarmulke. So
Outside of Austin getting a dog, which I will have you all know was very exciting for me. Because
Was
I
it?
feel like I've been hearing about this for months, mostly from Angela rather than Austin.
yeah, I haven't
about
heard
this
anything
impending
about
dog
it.
I've not heard
situation.
anything. This is all new to me.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, it's
she's
probably
also
not
been,
months, but we were vetting
been
a
a
bunch
while.
of different dogs.
She's also been
This is
telling it
selection
to me
process.
insofar as like when we get a dog, you should come hang out, which means I feel like I got a dog this week, which
That's
is
true.
very
You-
exciting.
Wait,
Yeah,
are you the
we're-
It's like being an
godmother?
aunt. It's
I'm-
like
I'm-
you get all of the fun of a family of the child,
Exactly.
but not
I
the. You
don't
can
have to
walk
take it
away.
to
You
the
can
vet.
leave the child there. Yeah.
No, I think we're grooming you as a dog sitter. That's I think that's what's going on there.
You got to pick a better dog sitter because Alana does not live close. You want to you. By the way, you are like 5 minutes. I don't even know that place is open right now, but trying to choose a dog sitter that's like 45 minutes away from you
Troy, can
is
you not rain on my parade?
Sorry. No,
I was
no.
gonna say,
I'm
I
just
think-
thinking you go to.
Yeah, I
Their
could go to
place.
Austin.
So isn't LA
We'll make it
traffic
work.
like really down right now? She could probably get there in 20 minutes. Like it's
It's
like,
maybe,
still a
yeah,
thing.
maybe, yeah, ish.
I actually haven't driven further than
studio?
a few miles in like 6 months. I'm trying to think the farthest I've gone.
There have been
really,
two
really short
occasions. Not. There's been more than two occasions, but there was one shoot that I was actually able to go to a location and shoot for a week and a half. That was cool, but it was like crazy COVID compliant. Like we all had to do, like the entire cast and crew, including the director, had to show up to do a COVID test. We waited in our car. We got the test immediately, like 15 minutes later. Then we all had to do 2 tests typically a day. The medic would text or would check you as soon as you got in, and then there was like flow of traffic. If you wanted to get, I think we talked about this before. If you want to get crafty, you had to text somebody to get you something. And then I just went to a studio on the west side that the new like client services is COVID compliant. So they're like, there's a badass UV lamp that as soon as somebody leaves, we just blast it with everything. Bring your own headphones. There's no more paper scripts. Typically, I'll bring my iPad or they have one there for me. Obviously, no clients are there, so you're typically just there with an engineer. You never even come into contact with anybody else. You just kind of wave hi through the glass. You do your session and you leave. So it's a weird new normal, but it's the thing that I have enjoyed is that I've been able to like get in my car and drive. I picked up this audiobook that I kind of like had pressed pause on for a while. So, but yeah, you're right. It's by and large, like I have to get a new car in January, and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not really gonna.
yeah.
I'm not gonna go the Austin route. I'm not gonna be like no car for a year and a half. Is it 18 months? How long did you not have a car?
I haven't had a
Yeah.
car for 2 years.
2 years.
It was one of those that I was in this minor fender bender that because my car was about 10 years old, it hit just the right way. There were no
Meaning
injuries.
you hit a 15-year-old.
It was a minor.
Minor.
They made very
Minor,
little.
minor.
They made very little dent on the car.
It was a man in the
But,
coal industry that you hit. It's a minor.
No, but it was one of those technical
Bitcoin.
totals, where the damage, it barely looked like especially because the car was black, you couldn't even really see that much. But when they pulled off the bumper, the frame was all bent, and they said, this is the repair cost is estimated to be 95% the value of the car.
Wow.
Because it was, it was a 10-year-old Prius, and it was like, I don't know. I think both numbers were like around 10 grand. And so they were like, just here's a check, go get a new car. And I was like,
Or
I just don't get a car. Yeah. And I did the math on like, if I were to replace this with a comparable car, and let's say I were to, I worked out a bunch of different models of like car payments, leases and whatnot. And doing the math, it was like, I could use Uber or Lyft or whatever, like 10 times a day and still save money. And
That's what it was for me. I also
don't need it.
Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily apply in all instances. Sometimes I rent a car or whatever. But during COVID, because even car rentals have been personless, I keep getting rejected because they won't take my passport. So, yeah. So if I've needed to go somewhere far, I've had to have someone take me.
So what does that look like? Do you have to have an international driver's license, or what is it? I have no idea. By the way, we all have to get new driver's licenses. It's the biggest pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, what is that? It's like there's a new type of
real ID.
Yeah, I saw this at the airport. I think once months ago, and I thought, if I don't pay attention to that, it probably won't. It won't be real.
by October. So like
today.
Yep.
Well, I need to get one anyway, but I've been avoiding the DMV, especially right now. But yeah, no, you can generally drive on an international license. There are some restrictions, but I've been able to drive on my Australian international license this whole time legally, so it's not a problem. But it's just an issue where paperwork is concerned, where processing is concerned. So it's like a problem where if I need to I can't order alcohol. So I don't drink at all, which I don't want to alone anyway, but I can't order alcohol from anyone because these digital services won't accept my IDs. So
even like Drizzly, not to give them a plug, but
none
like
of them.
Those people give zero fucks.
The only time that I
they've
got
basically
alcohol
shucked
was
beer
one
from
Great
time.
plug.
here.
Great plug.
I ordered it from a 7-Eleven, and the guy, I was like, here, I don't know if this will work, but I really hope it does, because it was for a Funhouse stream where we had to drink. And he ended up just being like, I'll just use my ID. I was like, I can see your passport. I can see your age.
I had the same reaction.
I'm just going to use...
You're like, you shouldn't give me that answer.
I was very happy about it, but...
Turns out he was
definitely
17 also.
What about like...
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
And
like, "I'll just use
Australian,
mine."
yeah.
But this one's fake anyway. Can I come in for a drink, actually?
Yeah, exactly.
What about like ordering weed? Like can you use your passport for that?
Never tried. I have no idea.
I know that I can tell you...
Probably not.
We a couple of months. No. This would have been pre-COVID, I guess. So earlier this year, I guess. We went down to San Diego and met with our dear friend from Ready at Dawn, Andrea Pacino, who was participating in a what was billed, turned out to be a bunch of shit, and it was lame, and he bailed. But it was like supposed to be this sort of intense Friends trivia competition, and he's like, no one can touch me. So we thought it'd be a fun
That guy's such
excuse.
a juxtaposition. You have to put up a picture of Andrea for people to understand.
I know.
This is not the person that's
He's
going to
a-
know
he's an
everything
anomaly.
about. Yeah, you should not know about, what are the characters' names? Veronica and
Veronica,
Archie
Don't
and
funny enough,
Jughead.
it's-
don't pretend to be cool. You know what their names.
Hold on, I can do this. I can.
There's
Joey,
no way you don't
Hold
know
on, I can
those
do this.
friends.
Incredibly
Joey
buff
and
guy?
Yeah,
Joey
he's
Yes.
a literal bodybuilder who's also
I can pull up.
concert
the,
pianist.
conservatory trained musician and
Coder.
Matt, and he's the CTO of Ready at
Side of his
Dawn, and like
guns.
Isn't he
and
also wasn't he also like an opera singer? Like can he not like is he not a singer
probably
as well?
I know he's a big
Probably.
opera fan. I don't know if he can, but he's
That
just
sounds too cool.
He's
he's like
just
50
too
things,
much.
but then he also was a competitively like national achievement level pinball player. It's hilarious. He's
He has
just
a incredible selection of analog synths. Like he's a West Coast like Moog
yeah,
guy.
oh yeah, big junkie.
But wait a minute. Wait, I can do this. Joey.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
You can do this. You definitely can do this.
Phoebe.
Phoebe. Thank you.
Don't help. Don't help.
Monica.
No, I can't
Yep.
do it.
Kramer. No.
Oh my god,
No.
killing me.
Monica.
I'll make sure that he never sees this.
What was David Schwimmer? Jennifer Aniston's character's name is. Fuck.
It was literally a hairstyle in the 90s.
Was it?
The Jennifer. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, everyone. I
can't do it right now.
Her name was the name of the haircut.
Wow.
My wife is freaking
I feel like
out.
Jennifer
Super
Aniston has
fashion.
had the same haircut forever, and it looks incredible.
It was
layered
iconic.
look.
Yeah, it was.
She gave the
It
layers.
was called. I'll give you a clue. The hairstyle was called the Rachel. I don't know. if
Rachel and
that'll help.
Good clue, Mike.
David Schwimmer's character's name. Rachel and Alex Jones. What's his name? Oh my god.
Alex Jones.
Here's the
Lost
thing.
to a Ross and Chandler.
Ross and Chandler. There you go. I got it.
Brutal.
There you go.
Brutal.
Amazing. Just,
Sneaky
it was
cat.
seamless.
Smell
You
it.
wouldn't
Needless
have
to
done
say-
very good at this quiz.
Yeah,
though.
I think that this
Yeah.
the whole reason I even brought that up was because they did it. We drove down to San Diego to cheer him on for this thing and just to hang out, and then the bar wouldn't let us in because they said Angela's Costa Rican both passport and her like ID kind of equivalent of a driver's license basically, but also Costa Rican. They wouldn't take him, and they were like, county law says it's got to be a U.S. license.
Oh,
and they
county
so we
law.
literally
That's interesting.
or city law or one of those that it was local to that area, and the bar was
We don't
like
take too kindly to your kind
dapper
round
ass.
these.
it was
your
so
parts of
annoying.
this
We
county.
literally we drive like 2.5 hours, and then we get down there, and they look and they go, "Oh wow, cool, Costa Rica." Nah, see ya.
Massive bummer. Yeah, I'm okay in LA and okay in Austin, which is the two that I really need to use it for. But I would love to go get a license. Like, it is definitely a thing that I need to do. But especially right now, I don't feel like I want to go to a DMV. Like, I'm just.
Sure.
I'm gonna
really
have
Or
to
ever.
go. Ever. There's a few that you can go to.
Take a shot.
that
Even
are
the
like,
Zootopia one. It's
It's
just no.
well, yeah. But there's also the one where it's almost like the old knight in The Last Crusade, where it's like, I knew you would come. He's been guarding his station for forever for someone.
Can
to
you
come and
just do the
vanquish
rest
him.
of this in that voice today?
Yes.
That brought me
It shows
poorly.
Scared
So
the shit out of me
good.
when I saw that in the theater.
good.
Who was
I like
that
it.
again? Who was the actor?
The
that
actor?
did that?
I can't remember.
Mike, I've been
like,
watching
Mike-
you try
Mike
to
Biffle,
drink
you
that
should know
same
that.
tiny bit of foam.
It's
Just
really
struggle with
annoying.
it.
It's
What
really
is that?
annoying. I'm
What are you
getting.
drinking?
I was drinking so I got an espresso machine and it's making coffee. I'm very
Good
excited.
for you, coffee buddy.
I guess
So it's
someone's.
getting good.
I
Yeah,
guess
I've
someone
joined
got
the
a lot of
gang.
wish lists and
Yeah, got a
decided
few wish
to.
lists there.
That's
Look at
it.
you, already
big
living high on the
business,
horse, aren't you?
That's right.
You
that's
fat cat.
You money bags, people.
You went to the espresso company and you were like,
I'll tell you what
"What do
this
you
one
have
is.
for
This-
1,000 wish lists?"
This was I get the beans from my local coffee shop, which is awesome down the road. And I what did I do? Oh, I then ruin it by putting in Biscoff syrup, which is amazing.
That
In-
sounds
Why do I ruin
amazing.
it with Biscoff? It's amazing.
That
That's what
sounds
I do.
amazing. I didn't know that existed.
It is
This
amazing. Yeah,
syrup for
it's-
Biscoff?
It's what's the name of the chemical that gives Biscoff its flavor?
Crack.
Spatulose
Cocaine.
or
I don't know.
something
Cocaine.
speculose.
Oh my god, you can buy this online. You can get Biscoff
Yes.
cookie butter spread.
Yes.
Mike, why have I never been
gonna
told
change your
about
life.
this?
We were keeping this from
The
her,
only
Mike.
mistake I made was I bought it in a
ice
rush
cream.
at like midnight. There's so much stuff. But I bought a bottle and I accidentally
so
bought like,
out
an
of the loop on
industrial
this.
size bottle of this. I'm gonna get it for you. 'Cause
Oh
it's
my god,
massive.
Biscoff's like crack.
Joey, Monica,
Absolutely incredible.
Ross,
I guess like now
Chandler.
I
I
should
could
just
do
do
Ross
the
and
intro of
Chandler. I
the
knew
show.
that.
You know, we've really covered a lot of bases here. Oh, got the syrup.
Look at
Too
that.
much.
Just drink. Take a shot right now.
Just
That's incredible.
good.
I
Isn't
love
that-
those biscuits, man.
yeah, speculous.
With
speculous.
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 Now with more speculous.
So
That's
Wow.
what
All the old
Biscoff
pretentious-
is.
I know now with more speculous
I'm gonna do a
feels
shot.
very like Brave New World. Or-
Exactly. I don't feel anything anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Go
Okay,
for it.
well,
Yeah,
now I'm sort of disgusted. He's just drinking the syrup. All right, well, this took a turn.
2 seconds ago, you were the happiest,
Mike,
like
you're off the
childlike
show.
wonder.
Am I
I
done?
shouldn't have done
You
that.
can't just shot syrup, but I will take the ice cream. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that mixed with stuff is lovely. On its own, it's an experience.
No,
It's
terrible.
it's not.
I like a
we
vanilla
gonna-
Wow.
latte, and if you just have the vanilla syrup, it's disgusting and tastes like alcohol. It's not. None of it is good.
Oh, really? I've never
Done
tried
with my
it.
damn
Okay.
hair.
But I have
Anyway.
tried that, and it was horrible. There you go.
Hi everyone, welcome to Play Watch Listen. I am Alana. I am joined by Austin Wintory, who is a video game composer, Troy Baker, who is a video game actor, and Mike Bithell, who is a video game
There's
director.
shots of syrup.
We did
Doing
shots of syrup. Moneybags
potentially
Bithell.
replaced
Moneybags
on the
Mike.
show next
Mike,
week.
who is a wish list advocate.
Yeah, I wanted to ask.
I do.
Mike,
I like a wish list. I like
do
a wish
like a
list.
wish list.
You've been amazingly
I do like
subtle
wish
about
lists.
it online lately.
I
haven't
am. I'm
noticed.
playing it very low key.
Yes.
I'm not pushing it,
No.
too hard.
No,
Don't
very
be afraid to tell people about it.
subtle marketing. You can never get what you want if you don't tell people about it. So you've got to
right.
be careful about that. But I did want to ask, like, you've now sent out some codes for
Yeah.
the video game which you have made during quarantine. That is coming out next week.
I was very
Yeah, it's
intent
out
on playing
Tuesday.
it before we recorded today, and I just ran out of time.
I'm
It's
glad because I also
Not
ran
that
out of
intent,
time.
then.
I would have felt
I
bad
have
if
not
you
installed
hadn't
it.
had.
Wow. So
I've
Troy
not
played it.
installed
He hated it. It's
No,
fine.
hated
and I told you this. I texted you this. I literally just want to play the game so I can troll Greg. That's all I want to
Yeah.
do. Like I like him little.
Do you know what's crazy? Is he's really good in it. Like it's gonna annoy you.
Oh, I know
he
it
really,
is.
Like
No,
he really did a good job.
Look, I am a fan of Greg Miller. I think that Greg
too.
is, and I would love to see Greg. I like Greg in a performance capacity. I like him
He's a
preferably
wrestler.
when he has a shirt on.
Well, that's
he's good with a shirt. He's good with a shirt.
He's good with the shirt. He uses
Yeah.
the shirt.
He uses the shirt. Yeah, that's
most
his
actors
entrance into the
don't.
character. Yeah.
That's a little bit outside in, but whatever. But I just want to make him go to bed every night and go, I did good. Right? I did good.
He did.
But I don't like
did.
troll him hard and be like, "Hey man, you made some strong choices." And just leave it at that.
You were very brave in this performance.
You
I really got to
You made
commend
me
you,
went
man. You went for it.
Yeah.
that is good.
And then if he goes,
'Cause it
"Did
could
you
be a
like it?" and
compliment.
just not respond, or do the 3 dots and then take it away, and then the 3 dots and
Yeah.
then take it away.
No, Greg
It's
is
the
the person
interesting,
who I
that's
think,
the one.
I respect for trying very hard consistently to be positive about things, which especially people whose business is on YouTube, it's very easy to dip into being negative because it gets more views. He's running a business, he's employing multiple people, but still won't do
Yeah.
it. Greg's thing is being a champion, and it must be so tempting again, as from a business side, to say negative stuff that you know will traffic really well on YouTube, but he doesn't do it. And yeah, I respect all of them for that. They just shout about kind of funny, shout about what they love and aren't overly negative about the things they don't love. And that's
But they're
great.
also not afraid to be passionate. You know what I mean? It's not like they're just kind of like rose tinted glasses, blinders on. The fact that they've really devoted their entire social media presence right now to the campaign and not being apologetic, going, we're taking a hard stance, and this is what we think you should do, and we want you to know this is important to us. The thing that I've always loved, and this is now a podcast by Greg Miller and kind of funny, Tim Geddes especially, if you ever need to like, hey, I'm not sure, I consider myself an exhorter and a cheerleader and someone who likes to encourage. Tim Geddes is one of the most inspiring. If you just have like a 15-minute conversation with Tim Geddes, he will make you feel like you can do anything. He will, and start right now. Like, not like, you know what, I think we're going to get around to that. You're like, I need to get off the phone with you right now so I can go accomplish whatever it is that I want to set out to do. Nick Scarpino is one of the favorite conversations that I had with him, is just him being so insane. We were having dinner in Austin and him being so happy. He's just like, this is what we've always dreamed about doing. We're finally doing it. It's just how community minded they are. What they've accomplished is incredible. And for all of those reasons,
I'm out.
I just want to tell Greg, it's just like, hey man,
He's coming for you now, man.
I do
He's
like
coming
to
for you.
sass
He is
Greg.
genuinely bringing
Yeah.
the
I
performance.
saw
really-
Andy Cortez more than any of them, but I did also want to mention Andy Cortez, awesome graphic designer, and I am planning to I'm planning to have him design, and I've already asked him. It's just a matter of like when he has time to do it. Design a "Disagree with Me, Baby" shirt for this show. I was
Oh,
like
nice.
specifically like I feel like Andy Cortez could do a great job of that one, so I was gonna have him do that when we get around to it.
Very cool.
I almost.
like kind of
I'm wearing
funny.
a different one.
They
I
do
almost
pay
wore
me,
my
full
my
disclosure.
KFAF shirt. I didn't wear my KFAF
This is an
shirt.
endorsement.
Yeah, it's good stuff. But Mike, what I wanted to ask, to circle back to video game coming out next week, you've sent out codes. How do you decide who gets a code?
Well, oh, that's a question.
And when?
That is a question.
And what's your embargo? And how
when?
does all that get planned?
How does that all just happen? So actually, that's the first thing is like we haven't actually sent out codes at the moment. We've sent out
Okay.
embargo offers.
Okay.
So that's the thing I think first off that a lot of gamers don't understand is, when you get critics to review stuff, you do an embargo, and there's lots of reasons to set an embargo. You can do it very late if you're worried that your game sucks. You can do it very early if you're super confident. And
Yeah, I
Sony
was a
always
bit
do
worried
that with
about
their first
Squadrons.
party.
When I saw that there were no reviews up already.
Right.
And I didn't get any contact from them
Those
or
hit
anything.
today,
But
I think, right?
yeah, they did, and it's 8 out of 10 generally across the
Oh,
board.
good.
So
Okay.
good stuff. Excited to play.
For
it.
licensed stuff, that's
It's
always a win.
I'm really excited for that. I have to say, as a diehard X-wing TIE fighter, X-wing versus TIE fighter, and X-wing Alliance player, this is a much needed, overdue return to that.
Well,
Fun
Austin,
height.
what are you doing Friday night?
Ooh.
Um,
He's in a committed, loving relationship.
It's true.
I don't know. We're going to see. That's going to depend on where this sentence goes because Squadrons has me very excited.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing a multiplayer stream with 2 of the devs, so we could have another. I could add another person if you have any interest in joining me on Friday night.
if
I
you
need
won't
to get
fanboy
a
out.
flight stick though. Like that's the biggest limitation I have right now. Is that
I won't be playing it with one initially, but
How are you going to play it?
controller? That's how most people will play it, or mouse and keyboard, but controller is what they
awful.
suggest.
Is there crossplay? Like, because I for sure that's a PC purchase.
I'm definitely also playing on PC.
Okay, so that's
We're all good across the board. Stop trying to get out of it, Austin. You could just play a video game with me on Friday night.
I'm
talked yourself
definitely
into
not
it.
trying to get out of it. I am definitely trying to look for the flaws in the plan ahead of time
I
instead.
don't know
of,
about you, Troy, but I'm very glad to be an audience for this.
Yeah,
This is-
Mike,
this-
how
this
are
is
Well, you guys both
delicious.
hate Star Wars, so
You guys just talked
No,
about
well,
shows.
I'm dressed as a Jedi right now.
you are
Yeah,
back in the
kind
room.
of on
Anyway,
brand.
sorry, to circle back, Mike.
Oh no, sorry, no, I wasn't. I was just enjoying the awkwardness of that
It's okay, we
conversation.
should
That was
anyway.
amazing.
awkwardness.
But no, and then the
I
third.
felt no awkwardness. This is
I didn't
only.
feel any
I
awkwardness.
either.
no, I didn't.
I was just gonna
we
ask
British,
why-
we're hypersensitive. But there's a third reason to an embargo, which is if you have no marketing budget, is you want your embargo to hit as your game does, so that you can get as many clicks on that review, and if it's good, going into the site. So indies often will embargo for the exact moment the game comes out, just because ultimately that's most of our marketing on launch day is going to be you reading a review on a games website you like. So we
Because
can't
you
afford to
don't
buy the
want-
banner, so we want to have the review hit on the day that the game comes
And you don't
out.
want people to have to wait 3 days to buy the thing they can forget in 3 days.
That's what I was going to say.
Exactly, that's the big one. Like we've done a lot of work, kind of promoting the wish listing, and it's worth saying actually, thanks to the audience of this show because we definitely saw a bump when this podcast came out. So thanks everyone who did that, because that helps in terms of the run up. But in terms of like actually selling copies of the game, yeah, you want that review. If the word is going to be good about your game, you want the word to be happening at the moment someone can actually come and bluntly give you money. And play the game, and especially if you feel your game is good, and I think Solitaire will see by the next podcast we'll know if it was good, but like all our playtest data tells us this is one of our better ones, so we're kind of excited and kind of tentatively hoping that the reviews would be good, so therefore it's in our best interest to have.
I was going to
something.
ask that next. Obviously, AAAs do mock reviews. I know a number of people who left games journalism and started doing mock reviews. Turns out there's quite a lot of money in that, actually. You get paid
I
pretty
was going to
well for it.
ask
There
how
really
expensive
is. I
that
asked
is.
someone once.
walk
I
me
asked like
through
a
that.
journalist once. It's really well paid.
Oh, yeah.
What-
Like, better paid
what's-
than media itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Explain a mock review.
You are essentially in more detail than you normally would for a normal review for games that are generally a lot longer. Just reviewing the game as you always would have as media, but directly for the publisher so that they can get an idea across the board of using multiple of these mock reviewers of what it will score and if there is anything that they could possibly change if you can give them an early enough build or anything like that.
Or
So
mark it around, right?
Yeah.
Like, go,
What do you wanna
if they
push
get
for?
like, yeah.
it's super
What's the
interesting.
thing?
But is it
What's the
also-
thing
is it-
there's going to be buzz around?
Does it ever manifest the other way? Like, it turns out that this system really sucks and is really hurting our score, and like let's make sure to, our marketing was originally built around, our graphics, just pulling a random thing, but like we're getting dinged on that. And so now it's all about the story or whatever, specifically because of the feedback because they're too past the point to be able to shift gears on just the actual substance of the game.
Or
well, the reality with mock reviews is you usually are past the point where you can actually
but I know
kind of
that
massively change the
EA
game.
specifically, I know, has done them like alpha. Like they've done one
Really?
level when the
Okay.
rest of the levels haven't even been made. So they
so
specifically.
that, okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
If I said, okay, well, let's go review this game. All right. Now, it's only 40% done. Most of it's grayscale. We haven't actually put in this character yet. We haven't recorded. You're going to be listening to like text to speech characters. But tell us what you think of our game. How does that help? Does that not hinder you as a developer going, fuck this person from
They hated the text to speech.
Polygamorous magazine, whatever?
It does. They don't like grayscale. They don't like gray box version of the game. So why would they? Yeah. The reality is, honestly, it depends on you always go into those things with motivation. You always go as a developer knowing what the question is you're trying to answer. You don't just go in and go, is it good? Because the team usually knows.
Okay. You're trying to see if this thing hits. Like,
you're trying to figure out.
Thing?
Yeah, so it's the same as playtesting. Like when I go and playtest a game, I know I don't care if the people playtesting the game like the game. It's nice to know if they do, but generally with playtesting, especially early playtesting, you're just trying to figure out, okay, what are they getting stuck on? What does nobody understand? We put out our first playtest on Solitaire, and we had nobody understood one of our core mechanics because we just never really tutorialized it, and everyone was messaging back going, this game's really hard because of this. And it's like there's literally like a flashing button on the top right they need to click, and they're not doing it because we never told them to. So you're looking for those kind of things. That's play testing. With the mock reviews stuff, it tends to be, as has been said, like more about like what is going to be the thing that people are going to be sharing screenshots of. What's the thing that like reviewers are going to pull out? I don't know if this is the case, and Troy, you might actually know this, but like with the Nemesis system in Mordor, my presumption as a game dev, seeing the way they presented and did the final PR push on the first game was, oh my god, they did their mock reviews and the critics fucking loved the Nemesis system. Because in the game, the Nemesis system isn't showy. It doesn't feel like that game exists just because of the Nemesis system. It feels like that was a game that was lots of things. But the way that last 3 months of promotion on the first game went, and how much it focused on the Nemesis system, it felt like a doubling down. It was like, and I think this is a fair critic. Like, I like that game a lot, but it's definitely a solid to okay open world game with this one glowing, fascinating mechanic that's really interesting.
It's a familiar open world game.
The worst.
Familiar, that's the word. That's the selling point, and it felt like that's what they were doing. It felt like a reaction to mock reviews. I have no idea if that was the case, but it felt.
So it's funny that you mentioned that. I've literally with this badass new PC that I've got, there's so many games. I got a little bogged down and like, oh my god, now what am I going to play? And the other night I was like, I'm just gonna drop in to get it popped up on Steam and it was like $4.99 or $7.99, whatever, with Shadow of War. And you can get Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War with everything available for like $10. I was like, I'm gonna do that. I want to see this thing on PC. So I just like dropped in and started playing it again. The weakest part of that game is the story. Or the performances.
I was gonna say it, but you got there faster. I was gonna the acting.
It's too fast. Austin usually hangs back with the meanness. Like, usually it's you or me that hits first a lot, but he went for it that time. I respect it.
The story and everything is the weakest. It gets in the way. It is just the best thing about. So their entire marketing was centered around orcs. And doing this, like, even for Shadow of War, it was this weird live action. They did all this stuff with orcs.
It was the Corridor Crew guys, right? Did like a live action trailer for that. For the second one, right? Yeah, I remember.
And they did like this kind of weird, comic-y, gimmicky, slapsticky, thing with. And it was just like, that's not what this is at all. And it was so off tone. It was almost borderline Dead Island off tone but the inverse of what the game was. I was like, well, you just kind of took the piss on our story, which, by the way, gets in the way. And we just needed to go, Go run around in Mordor. Go run around in Nirn and Karnan and all these places that you've read about, and just see what happens. It's the most instantly satisfying, gratifying game that you can play. It's just like boom. It's always fun. It's got that Arkham Assassin's Creed super finely tuned fighting mechanic, and it's super fun. But you're absolutely right. They didn't. They were really leaning on this is a great open world Lord of the Rings game. Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings. Nobody gives a shit about Lord of the Rings. What do they care about is holy shit, I can do whatever. And I have emergent gameplay, shift focus. And they all of a sudden, like you said, in the last 3 months, it was like, make your own story.
And timing wise, that feels like when they would have done the mock reviews. And that's why my entire conjecture is that. But it's really, and that's interesting. And then the other thing is obviously mock reviews can tell you the problems. So I've got a horror story if you want to hear it, which is we did Volume.
Love to.
Volume was a stealth game. We released
Schadenfreude.
we released it in 2015, and it was a good. Say again, sorry.
That was 5 years ago.
It was 5 years ago. There was an article about it today, which was like that game came out 5 years ago. Jeez. But the it's a stealth game. It's kind of Metal Gear Solid VR missions, but like spun out in an indie way. But we sent that out. We didn't do mock reviews because we didn't have budget to do that. And we still don't do mock reviews. We do a lot of playtesting, but we don't do mock reviews. And we sent it out to critics. We sent it out to critics. I feel because it was quite a big game. We sent it out a couple of weeks before launch. And obviously, once you send it to critics, that's the game. And ultimately, it's their job to appraise that game and share it with their audience. But I got like emails from like 2 or 3 of them going, Mike, you know that like your entire kind of death state loop is completely broken and massively cheesable. So basically you would get to these checkpoints and they would save your progress and you could continue, but basically you could play the entirety of Volume just running forward through the space and not engaging with the stealth at all. You could complete the game in like an hour with that review version. Yeah, and because the joke with game developers, and I think we're slightly more mature as a studio now, but the joke with game developers is we play our games right. It takes players to play them wrong and find all of these kind of things that we never planned for because we're always playing the game quote unquote correctly. Mm-hmm. And we were obviously terrified because basically like we knew we were going to get dinged in reviews for it, and we absolutely did. But we also knew like we're going to launch with this, so there was this kind of mad dash while the critics were playing the game and reviewing it. And if you go back and read Volume reviews, a lot of them do point out this massive game design problem. And by launch, we'd fixed it. So when players got in, we were there with a solution. I think we got it in like 2 or 3 days after launch, but it was this mad dash during that reviewing process to fix a fundamental problem in the game design. And it sucks, and it was a real lesson for us because our, the Metacritic on Volume was not as high as it could have been if we'd gotten that right. Players
that also creates a strange.
It worked as a long form. Like the game sold well over its lifetime, but damn, was that a bad launch. And that was a lot of lessons for us.
Doesn't that also create the problem that also all the reviews are dinged the game for something that the players then wouldn't have found in the game?
Sure. But that's not the critics'
that also I know, but it just creates an
interesting. And I feel like this is such an interesting conversation. Is the idea of playing games wrong? If you chose to play it that way, how can you? And you knew that you were playing it the wrong way. How can you criticize it for that? Because it's
you're correct. The only issue is we had leaderboards, so there was a competitive aspect. And if you're doing competitive,
that's fair.
Then yes. I'm with you on like a single player thing. Yeah, if you cheat in a game, that's your problem. But like,
there's
we had journalists in the leaderboard. Like, we ended up deleting all this data in there, but we had journalists who were like completing the game like in half an hour.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
Oh, no. Yeah, we really messed that up. But we did fix it. It was fine. But yeah, that's why you do mock reviews is to find those things.
What do you think about doing mock reviews or narrative tests, early narrative tests, like? Early access, or even,
that'd be hard.
Like you said, I agree.
I don't do it for narrative. I'll do it for gameplay. For narrative,
there's a lot of people that do it though.
Oh, for sure. And
the narrative test, no way. Look, I know I know play tests like
do loads, don't they?
Well, they're doing.
I had no idea.
That people are just not getting this about this story right now. I'm like, yeah, because we haven't even gotten into.
Well, that's why I don't do them. Because I'm like with narrative. That's where I put on my kind of artiste hat and say, well, I'm going to tell my story how I want to tell it.
How
With
can you even
gameplay, for
absorb
me,
a
that's a
story without having
functionality
played the whole
issue.
thing?
Big
With gameplay,
difference.
we will play test and figure it out, because ultimately, like, if they can't play the game, they can't experience the game. Like, that's testing whether we're succeeding. But I do understand, like, with narrative design, especially on more complex games than mine, I understand why you would want to do that, because you are telling stories in very complex ways with lots of different moving parts. It's possible that you might lose someone.
It's yes, but if you're telling your story right, this is what I hate is always the result. I've never, without any variation, have I seen a difference where it's people aren't really finding this important, so we need to double down on this and make sure that the player understands that this is important and they're looking for the key, or that this person was really, and let's remind people that this happened. I'm like, no, if you have to remind somebody of something, then if you, like Robert McKee talks about this, like flashbacks are the biggest cheat.
Yeah.
And if you have to use a flashback, it's not a big deal.
I feel that way about a news story. If you tell me
In what
information
way?
via a news story, it's just a broadcast, and they're like, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. I'm like,
But
Yeah,
Alana,
all right.
writing's hard. Sometimes you gotta, it's fine. I just
no,
literally,
a,
I just wrote something recently that has a news reporter character in it, so I
Cheating.
definitely have broken that rule.
It's a great way to exposit.
it is.
It's an easy
it's
way
lazy.
to exposit.
It is lazy though. It is lazy. for sure.
There's interesting way you're like, I have to onboard the player into my story, the character, the world, and I can only do that. I can do that diegetically, and I can do it in a non-diegetic way. But either way, I'm going to employ some kind of cheat. Dialogue, Hitchcock even said, is a cheat. Like, and when all else fails, use dialogue. So if you can set a tone and set a mood without
But he
anything
could choose
else,
where the viewer would look.
exactly.
With
and
Hitchcock had
that's-
control of the camera, and that means he gets
That's
to say
the biggest
that
thing I was
dialogue.
going to
The
say
rest
that
of
I've
us,
seen in
we-
playtesting. Like, to use an example I can talk about, at Gunfire Games, I was talking to them about a ton of their playtesting stuff for the Darksiders series, because obviously the Darksiders games are very puzzle heavy. They have a lot of puzzles. And there are basically just instances which, as a player, you wouldn't even necessarily pay attention to, where there's something shining, you know what you have to open, but they also have to do a camera pan and pull to the thing, because enough players just walked past it, even though it was shiny and movable. But enough people were like, what? Where do I go? That they're like, okay, we camera on that. And the Gears of War franchise does the same thing. It's the Y button. It's like, look exactly where you need to look. So I guess that's like a default. If you can't figure out how to get players to look at something, even if you feel like you've made it incredibly obvious, is just pull
Uncharted
camera to
did
it.
I know. I was going to say
Uncharted does
Naughty
that too.
Dog. In The Last of
Cha-ching.
Us.
R3.
I always hear that thing, and the funny thing is, I take it as an insult when I'm exploring, and then it's like, bing, and it's
Alan
telling
Wake
me
does
like,
it really bad.
we think you're lost, and I'm like, fuck off! I'm not lost. I'm enjoying your fucking game.
Or it frustrates me if you're like, okay, I finally took a hint. Give me a hint. They're like, maybe you should look around. I'm like, fuck you, man. Tell me where I should look. I give. All right, you broke me.
Just like explore a bit, bro.
You want to know the movie industry? I don't know if mock reviews are a thing, but obviously, like getting scored,
Test
like
audiences and
test
whatnot.
audiences is a thing,
Sure.
and composers are notoriously on the crap end of that, because what happens is you obviously can't show a rough cut and expect to get any meaningful feedback from like an audience of normies, in the same way that like a completely broken build will just yield noise. It won't yield actual feedback. And so if you show a thing that's, act one is twice as long as it's supposed to be, all the visual effects are missing, even like it's color graded and it's not color graded, so you can't even see the thing in the background of the shot that's supposed to be, and of course the music is not done, which depending on the filmmaker may or may not make it narratively broken.
So much impact,
And
yeah.
So the thing that ends up happening though is, because they will do focus testing late in the process when the movie's basically done, the result is that almost always the only real meaningful change they can make at that point is the music. And a number of times composers have gotten screwed over because they're desperate to do any kind of damage control they can on their movie that's underperforming in these focus tests. And so they just sort of yank the composer around. A very famous, in composer circles, a famous example of that 10 years ago. So you remember Joe Johnston, like Rocketeer Joe Johnston's Wolfman movie with Anthony Hopkins? That one had a disastrous focus test pretty close to release. And Danny Elfman had been hired to do the score and did a very Elfman like gothic horror, kind of like, you know, his Sleepy Hollow that he did for Tim Burton. And they were like, well, obviously it's not, we want it to hit the, you know, the young one. I think this was this Lionsgate or Universal?
Had to have been.
But they were like, we want
was
this to hit
Universal,
with the, Yeah.
Universal.
we want this to hit better with the, you know, the youngins. So they threw out Elfman's score and replaced him with Paul Hasslinger from Tangerine Dream to do like epic metal. And then they screened it that way. And bear in mind, all of this is happening like, you know, 2 weeks later. Okay, Paul, we need the finished score to this entire movie. So just explodes out this score. They focus tested again, and it's like cataclysmically worse. But they also recut a lot of shit as part of the process. It wasn't just swap the music, but trim this, move that around, add those shots, remove those shots. And
They
it
also
scored
80-yard every line that what's his name had.
I-
Benicio del Toro?
Not Anthony.
Is
Yeah.
that him in there?
Benicio del Toro.
One I know is Hereditary, the original ending.
Well,
to
wait.
that
The story
movie.
doesn't. The story's
Hold
not.
on,
The
hold on,
story's
go
not
ahead.
over though. That
Hold on.
here's the crazy thing. So they've tossed Elfman. They've replaced him with Paul Hasslinger, who's done plenty of movies. But they were like, oh shit, this was a total misread. So then they called Elfman back and
Jesus.
said, I guess we want to reinstate your score. But they had recut the movie so heavily that he basically had to rewrite it again. So they essentially had to hire him a second time.
Oh my
In
God.
order. And then the hilarious thing is that it comes out and the people were like, this is pretty good. And the score was really well regarded. And it was like, he's obviously a genius.
Pretty good though, Elfman, isn't he? He's pretty...
Yeah, he's
Pretty
on
all
his
I
way.
might know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But all of that was because of focus testing.
Jeez. I mean, I get the importance of it. Like, you know, if I write something, I generally will give it to. But I guess even my point is like with the various. I've written 4 short stories that I actually liked this year, and then 10 that are terrible. But I'll give them to people with specific questions. Of
When are
like,
you doing that?
So I generally do it at night. Before I go to bed, I'll just type away. I try to do as much in a sitting as I can. So sometimes it's the whole weekend and I just do one and I just get it done just to keep doing that basically. But generally when I'm asking people for feedback, I'm asking for pointed feedback. I'm not going, just read this whole thing and tell me what you think. Is this character strong enough? Does this make enough sense? Like I have it's like having a hypothesis. I'm like, I think this part is weak and I need to know what you think of it. I'm very pointed. And that would be, I think, the same thing. Whereas a film
That's playtesting.
view test is just anything.
Yeah,
Well,
but
that's
it's
the difference between a
also
focus test and a play test, or like it's you don't
Right.
you like you say you're testing hypotheses. You're testing like you always go in whether or not you tell the person who you're testing with what your question is
still
another
have the
decision
question.
you make.
But you're still
in terms
also
of-
pointing to it, though. You're also going, tell me, do the relationship between these two characters, does that really matter to
Well,
you?
I do that, but I guess what Mike's saying is that you don't have to do that. You would just wait to
Well,
hear
no,
it, but
'cause-
you're still wondering about that thing.
I think
yeah,
you
you
could
go in
wonder
with the
about
questions.
that.
Yeah.
But the second that it's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, right? The manner of something is changed by the very act of it being observed. Like the second that you go and tell me if the dog makes sense to you, you're like, oh, I didn't even. Okay, I'll be keying in on the dog. Yeah, the dog was, or you'll
Yeah.
automatically have a position.
Well,
going
generally,
into it.
what you would do is you'd say, "So tell me about which characters were interesting to you," and then if they don't mention
Make
the
it
dog,
broad.
you make a note of that, and then
Right.
you ask about the dog. But the other thing that's really interesting with playtesting is you can't take anyone at their word. That's the joke with playtesting. Is the worst way to playtest anything is to ask someone what they think.
Yeah.
The best way to playtest is to watch them, to observe that process, and also to always think about basically treat the disease, not the symptom. So often, like someone will do a playtest and they'll be like, "Your game's too easy," and you could immediately go, "Well, we're just gonna make it harder then." But actually, if you look at what they're playing, it's like, "Oh, they didn't realize that this mechanic was there, so they couldn't engage with this higher tier play. Oh, that enemy's buggy, and we need to like fix that problem because it made everything much easier." That they were actually like really struggling, but they just didn't know they were struggling because our health meat bar isn't like there's a million causes of any problem, so you're always trying to track the symptoms but work your way back to what the problem underlying those symptoms is.
I think
the
it's
playtest thing.
it's also like there's a lot of developers that there's webcams that as you're watching people play, and it's like they're like
It's so fascinating.
yeah, they're like I that part really didn't impact me that much. Like you were crying. Like, you
We
were
have
full
footage
on.
of you doing that. Yeah.
There is something that I think there's another example of like there's no score, there's no special effects or anything. There's a famous story that ended up yielding some of the best feedback ever, and that's when Lucas screened for Spielberg and De Palma the first Star Wars, and it was like, what do you guys think? And Spielberg was quiet, and De Palma was like, I don't know, you got a green guy, you got this bear, you have this whole world that you're trying to like space, but I don't understand. It's like you need like this big, long, scrolling prologue, just to let everybody know what's going on. And so that's where that whole thing came from. Is Brian De Palma came up with like. George Lucas was like, well, episode 1 or episode 4. That's how he's like, you son of a bitch, you had to start from 4, not 1, whatever.
Not to mention that he wanted a very kind of Buck Rogers old-fashioned serial musical approach.
Year 2022.
And
a man goes.
But specifically with the score.
That's why you show it to peers. That's why you don't just play test. You do play test with like normal people, but you also play test with. We had it on Solitaire. I sent it to a bunch of other developers, and one guy wrote me basically like an 8-page document. Vitor, I can say who he is because it was good. He wrote me an 8-page document which basically started with, your tutorials in your games consistently suck. This game demonstrates again that this is bad. Here's where the problems are. And I would suggest you investigate doing this. So we tore out the entire tutorial system, play tested it again with a new tutorial system based on his suggestions, and that's when the game became like love.
Isn't it always interesting when the right person, a single piece of feedback?
Yeah.
We had the same.
We were getting good playtest data. It was like, yeah, this is fun. It's a card game. It's just Solitaire. And then like the next batch of playtest data we got was, I've been playing it for 4 hours. It's like that switch was amazing. Just because one guy had the nerve to tell me that he hated what I'd done, and that's the people you need around you. You need
that's true friendship. I was like, I don't like it, dude. It's not good.
Sure. Yeah.
But I always think
Rogers, by the way, is one of the greatest themes. That's like it's done in 12/8 time. And if nothing else, listen to the drums on that, dude. That drummer is getting after it. Listen to the Buck Rogers theme. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like that guy's.
Alana will add it underneath what we're saying right now.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say is I always think of playtesting as a function of averages. Like you need a wide pool of people, but yet it is interesting when a single voice like Vitor can really. And there's a story I've told. A bunch of times, but the short version was when we were working on Journey, and my old college roommate came to visit LA, and I said, hey, you want to come see this thing I'm working on? And we knew that the ending of the game wasn't quite sticking the landing, but TGC was having a hard time kind of zeroing in on where it was losing people. And I remember my roommate Billy came and sat in Robin Huneke's office, and like we closed him in there, and he played through the game start to finish while the team had like stand up or something. And then at the end on the mountain, when it like fades to white, the build crashed and just hung on a white screen, and he sat there and then he came out with this pale look, and he was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever played. And he thought we had made this super bold choice to end the game. And it was like, it was like, oh shit. And that's where we realized like it reaches this emotional peak at that moment, and then from that point forward was where it kind of sort of seemed to drift off course. And that single play
such a funny way to learn that, because it broke. It's crazy.
But it's just like lucky. And that wasn't a scheduled play test. Like they were doing regular scheduled at Sony Santa Monica with like what Troy was talking about, with the camera facing the player, and everybody would watch them and take notes and ask, and then they'd have questionnaires after and all that. And then there's just one casual Oh, it's so cool. And
I've done playtesting for horror games twice, for 2 horror games, and I did some for some of.
Does it make you feel very vulnerable?
Well, I'm terrified.
The 5 people sitting in the room next door watching you live were probably freaking out the whole time. It's great. I love that.
When I did one of my horror playtests, there were people watching me live, and I was also intentionally in a dark room.
With the one-way mirror. Yeah.
Yep. And like, I'm so scared of horror games, despite survival horror.
Troy's listening to Buck Rogers right now.
I can't.
It was such a weird experience, though, because when you know you're being watched, you also act differently. So, like, it's just such a difficult thing to do.
That's the Heisenberg thing.
Watched.
Yeah.
That's why it's like
Breaking
we
Bad.
hear directors talk about actors being aware of the camera. It's like you just naturally it's that Paul Rubens in Pee Wee Herman's Big
that's
Adventure,
actors though, isn't
the way that
it?
he just
They know his cameras.
it's like there's the camera. Mr. Herman, paging Mr. Herman. Which, by the way, Roger Clark's like favorite movie. We had him host one of our movie screening things, and I was like, "All right, dude, what movie do you want to host? And I was like, he's this, incredibly well-read, intelligent, erudite.
Tombstone.
And
Just
I was
lean
like,
into it.
What's it going to be?
Roger?
Is it going to be like Citizen Kane? Like, what's it going to be? Yeah, well, like, or is it going to be like, Tombstone or Blazing Saddles? Great westerns. Silverado.
yes.
What's it going to be? 310 to Yuma. And he goes, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Have you seen it, Troy? It's a fantastic Tim Burton's directorial debut. I was like, you're serious right now? I was like, or is this like a piss take where you're going to have everybody sit there and watch this guy? I made you all watch it and just leave. And he was like walking through his notice the film noir aspect of this. It's a little something about Roger Clark you didn't know.
He's great.
Danny Elfman's
He's great.
first
Big
ever
fan.
film score.
Danny Elfman's first score and Tim Burton's ever first directed movie. He goes from that to Batman.
No, Beetlejuice.
That to Beetlejuice to Batman.
Yeah.
That's like boop, boop, boop. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it's nuts.
Austin, I believe you have to go. Are we on time?
I do. I have to
It's
go.
11 o'clock.
I have to go judge young composers on their demos.
You're awful. You're terrible.
You should
you
stop
go.
doing that. They leave them alone, Austin.
Yeah.
Leave them, just let them
Bully.
be.
You're like,
Yeah.
In fairness, I will have.
This is where the minor
colleagues,
fender bidder came
This is the
from.
minor-
Yeah.
Exactly.
Keeps hitting Midas.
That's how he shows his judgment. It's just
It's true. It's a very
My
competitive-
background is Hades because there was a chance we were maybe going to talk about Hades today. which
everyone's talking about Hades.
It's
I learned
really
something about that
good.
today.
Yeah,
I learned something
it
about
looks
that. I
good.
didn't
It
realize that
looks
roguelike was because it was based on the old Rogue game.
It's like
Didn't know
Rogue.
You
that.
didn't know that?
I did not know that. I thought it was just kind of roguelike, kind of like.
Oh, you just meant as
He's a
in, like,
rogue.
there's
He's
repeat-
he's a Han
Yeah.
Solo type.
Roguelike.
No, literally.
No,
like
we
that.
should totally talk about it next time though, because it was a freaking awesome experience. My little.
Did you work
role
on
in
you?
that.
So you what? Did you score Hades or?
No, it's Darren Korb as usual with Supergiant, but they there was like this discussion because of the PAX concert that we did, where we did an orchestral reimagining of kind of the best of from Pyre, Transistor, and Bastion.
Those songs
It was
are
like-
so good, man. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
we and they did this whole thing, and so then there was this discussion of like, well, we could do like a vinyl proper studio recording. We could maybe do it at Abbey Road, and I said, you haven't finished Hades. We're gonna be in Abbey Road with an orchestra. Surely something in Hades could benefit from that. And he was like, actually, I think so. And so it's like, please let me work on that with you. That would be just such a joy. I'm such a fan of his, and we're such close friends for years now. In fact, the first time we ever hung out for real was after Mythos, Troy, when we all went with Logan Cunningham. We
that
went to
was
the
such-
diner till like 3 a.m. in New York.
Well, we went to a bar first, and then we went to the diner. It was off of 9th, 57th and 9th or something, and we just... Those are good.
We broke bread.
Yeah,
It's
we
good
broke
times.
bread. Good times. I miss New York, I miss London, and I miss Paris.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're gone. They're just gone now.
Mostly
not
just
there
miss
anymore.
home.
So yeah, I'm gonna run.
Yep.
I'm gonna feel free to keep going, and but I'm gonna disconnect and
The
send
show
you.
isn't a show without you. I was going to say
Couldn't
something.
possibly.
Get us
All
out
right.
of here, Alana.
we'll see you next week, everyone. Bye.
Okay.
I punched my microphone.